This video does not harbor any hate towards the creators of this mod or anyone who enjoys playing it. This is simply my opinion. Do you know what that word means? Good. I don't like this mod. If you have been anywhere online recently and are a fan of TF2, then you would probably know that Team Fortress 2 Classified has finally been released onto Steam, and everyone loves it, it seems. I am not one of these people. And to tell you why, then I need to tell you what this mod really is. Well, it's TF2, but with less content, but then a little bit more content. It's got a few new game modes, new maps, and new weapons. What does it do to actually set itself apart from TF2? Well, it is in that additional content. Many of these being scrapped ideas within TF2's development, like the civilian game mode, 4 teams, and a few weapons. It is an interesting concept for sure, but actually playing it, you quickly realize most of these things were scrapped for a reason. They aren't very good and they aren't very fun to play. Of course, if you find any of these fun to play, kudos to you. Like, I can't change your opinion. It's your own opinion. Fun is whatever you find fun. But are you finding it fun because it's Team Fortress 2 Classified? Or are you finding it fun because it's just Team Fortress 2? To start out with the game modes, I'm only going to talk about the brand new ones unique to TF2C. So just starting with the 4 teams game mode. It's just regular TF2, but now there are 4 teams. Shocking, I know, but what's so bad about this in my opinion? Well, it just becomes really frustrating to play. Like, on paper, it sounds fine, there are 4 teams, the players will be spread apart evenly, but when you're actually playing, it doesn't really feel like there are 4 teams, and rather the enemy's team is just 3 times as large as your own. Aside from that, there is nothing unique about the game mode. It is just, there are 4 teams now. So once the novelty of, oh my god, this guy's green, has worn off, it just becomes a frustrating experience where you just die because you cannot fight off 3 times as many players. I get the fact that other people are going to be fighting other people too. Most players will just shoot the first person who they see. And if there are 3 times as many people who are likely to shoot you, you're going to die and be shot at a lot. And in my opinion, it just doesn't shake up the gameplay formula enough to warrant it. So it is just the novelty of 4 teams, and once that wears off, it's just a frustrating game mode. The other unique game mode to this game, and the one which they use in all of the marketing, is the VIP game mode, where 1 player on your team will be a civilian. They basically do no damage, and they are a payload cart. You need to bring them to the objective. And I'd say that they're just like a payload cart, because originally, in the development of TF2, the VIP game mode was turned into payload. And the reason for this was because if you had a bad civilian on your team, it was a frustrating experience. So what have they done in order to circumvent this in TF2C? Nothing. And it's not even particularly fun to play as the civilian, since all you can do is whack people with your umbrella to do very little damage and give a few people some buffs. Other than that, you are completely helpless. And so if you are just trying to play the objective, but the civilian on your team is just terrible and keeps dying, it's frustrating and there's nothing you can do. And if you're the civilian and your teammates refuse to protect you, the same thing. It's just a frustrating experience. Might be fun for a few rounds, but once the novelty runs out, it's just frustrating and boring and annoying. But hey, the core TF2 game modes are still in here, and you aren't forced to play the new ones. So hey, maybe it's just the cool new weapons which bring people to play this. So I went and had a look at all the new weapons, and they fall into one of 2 categories, most of them being in both. Either just straight up bad, or a already existing weapon in TF2 which has been tweaked slightly. The Brick for Scout. This is a totally brand new weapon. It's a throwable secondary, where you throw it and it deals a high burst of damage. Like, oh hey, that's a pretty cool idea, and it's a unique weapon type. And it is fairly fun to throw a projectile as the scout and deal high damage at once. Wait, this is a regular TF2 clip. Yeah, so the brick is just a worse flying guillotine. This weapon already exists in regular TF2. So this one just does less damage. Like, it does more damage on the actual impact, but the guillotine applies bleed, which makes it do 90 damage in total. This thing just does 65. Or maybe that one's just a miss. The scout also has the nail gun, which was his original primary in the beta version of TF2. And in this game, the nail gun just kind of sucks compared to the scattergun, because it has the same DPS, but all of its damage is spread out. In the time it takes for the nail gun to match one shot of the scattergun can shoot for a second time, so the nail gun is always just playing catch up. And if you don't hit every single needle, well, then it is just even more bad. And the nail gun also only has 25 shots, and because it takes 6 shots in order to match one of the scattergun, if you divide 25 by 6, you get 4. So it essentially only has a clip size of 4. But wait, so a scout primary, which only has 4 shots, it shoots faster, but it deals less damage per shot. And also it reloads the whole clip. This is just the shortstop. But worse, because at least the shortstop has a significantly higher DPS than the scattergun. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, if you like either of these weapons, like, the same thing but better already exists in regular TF2. Okay, well, what else does the scout have? That's it. That's everything. Just 2 worse weapons of things that already exist in regular TF2. Okay, fine. How about the soldier? Alright, well, starting out with the anchor. This is just the market gardener, but less skill and less fun to use. Instead of reliable one-hit kills, if you are skilled enough to do a rocket jump and hit them while in the air, you just jump up and then you land and deal high area damage, so you don't even need to hit people precisely. And you can't do short hops because you don't get enough air time to trigger the ground pound. This is just a worse market gardener. And the RPG, this is a primary, which gives you a rocket, which does more damage, but you only have 1 rocket in the clip. This is just a terribly designed weapon. This is just a noob weapon where you can one-shot someone if they come in your face, and not achieve nothing else, really. A less skilled direct hit, except that's not right, because I looked at the wiki and this weapon doesn't take any fall off, so you always do base damage, and it only has 1 shot. So because it does more damage and it has no fall off, that's essentially a mini crit, and this is just the Cowmangler charge shot. You only have one rocket, you fire it once, and it does more damage. You can already do this in TF2. It's called the Cowmangler. You can use it. The Cowmangler you can use as a regular rocket launcher too. And those are all of his new weapons, so again, just use the Market Gardener and use the Cowmangler and you have the exact same experience. Alright, so the Pyro, he has basically a Force of Nature shotgun now, where it does low damage, but it can launch the Pyro. So it's the detonator, but without any skill because you don't need to manage your HP. Alright then. Oh, but I don't want to lose any HP, and then use the jetpack. Because this shotgun does barely any damage, so you don't really lose out on much. Just use the jetpack in base TF2. And the melee, okay, now this is the best new addition. It's unique, good downside. Well, I say it's unique, so it's a weapon where you get more survivability as Pyro. You can, whenever you have someone who is having on fire with afterburn and you switch to the melee, you regenerate HP, so it gives you more survivability. And once you've done enough, you also get a critical hit, doing more damage. Except I lied, because this isn't unique, this is just the back scratcher. More damage, more health. Like, so far, all of the weapons are just new versions of existing items in TF2. Alright, Demoman, he has his gunboats now. That's nice. I like this. Oh yeah, you thought I was going to complain about everything? No, that's fine. This is a good thing. Like, this gives Sticky's only demos a good secondary to use, because at the moment the only thing they really have is to get 25 extra HP from the booties. I mean, if you really want to play Sticky's only, you can do that. I'm not stupid enough to say that 60% damage resistance and 25 extra HP is the same thing. Anyway, the Cyclops, this is just bad. It's like a mix of the Iron Bomber, but also the Loose Cannon. But it only has one shot. Why would you want to use this? Well, you're gonna want to use it if you're using the brand new Dynamite Pack secondary, where you can throw it, and then wait a few seconds for it to explode, and then wait a few more seconds for it to explode again. If anyone walks on top of it during that time, they might take a bit of damage. Why would they do that? With the Cyclops, you can detonate it instantly. If only Demoman had like a secondary weapon where he could launch a projectile and then detonate it remotely for high, that just use regular stickies. This is just pointless. Would you rather have 8 explosives or 1? Anyway, and the mine layer, this is just a less skilled version of the Scottish Resistance. You can lay out multiple traps, and if enemy walks over it, they just die instantly. With the Scottish Resistance, you can lay out multiple traps, but then you need to time your detonations and to make sure you pick the right trap, and it's just a lower skill version of the same concept. Just you give the Scottish Resistance a try. Also remove Demonite. Right, the heavy. So first of all, they completely reworked the sandwich. It only heals 120 HP, but there's no cooldown, and the only time you get the cooldown is if you throw it to a teammate. This was just a completely unnecessary change, really. There was nothing wrong with the sandwich in the base game. But if you want a way to heal yourself up with a medium amount of HP very quickly, you can use the banana or the Delocus bar. They also made it so that you can have crits with the sandwich, which it makes it so it heals more and puts it into overheal. So I guess that's cool. If only Heavy had a lunchbox item which gave him extra HP in the base game. The Delocus bar. Oh yeah, speaking of the crit sandwich, how do you get those? Well, with the brand new Killing Gloves of Boxing ripoff. Instead of on kill, this is on hit. And instead of 5 seconds of crits, you store a crit that activates when you start shooting. And also its downside makes it so that you take extra damage from melee attacks, which incentivizes people to come close to you, allowing you to hit them and then get crits. Like, it's better than the KGB, sure, but it doesn't mean it's a better designed weapon. And if you want something similar, you can use the KGB in base TF2. Oh yeah, and Heavy's new primary. This is a weapon where it can shoot slower, but it rewards you for being accurate. The Tomislav. Okay, and what new weapons does the engineer have? Well, all of his cool shotguns are gone, all of his cool wrenches are gone, and all that he has is these new jump pads, which are terrible. They cost 100 metal, can be destroyed really easily and take forever to build. But at least these jump pads aren't really comparable to anything that the engineer has in base TF2. So good job guys, you made one unique weapon. I mean, there's no way for the engineer to propel himself upwards with his own tools and buildings. Why is this clip of the Wrangler showing? And for use of your teammates, these are just not good. Like, teleporters are way better. The engineer also has a new pistol where you can charge it up and then it can do up to 75 damage. That seems a little busted, I'm not gonna lie, but hey, that's inoffensive to be honest. A single shot weapon alternative to the pistol, that's actually fine. Good job guys. It can also do this. But if you've watched an Uncle Dane Frag video, you know you can do this with either the Wrangler or the Short Circuit, albeit with a bit more technical stuff behind it. And if you really want to have movement with Engineer, you can use the Eureka effect, which also makes your teleporters cheaper. Alright, and as for the medic, he has a new medigun, which you can fire bursts of healing. This is just an area of effect crossbow, which also does overheal. Okay. And his Uber is stupidly busted because you can throw it down and you and any of your teammates which are inside can shoot, and if you are using the Uber saw, yeah. The Uber extension is fine in regular TF2 because you are vulnerable when you switch to the Uber saw. Not with this thing. But you're not fine. Medic needs area of effect healing. It's not like there's any weapon in base TF2 which gives him that. Also, this is just a melee version of the crossbow. Except the healing isn't always available to you. And if your teammates decide they want to run away from you for no reason, there's nothing you can do about it and you just die. And Sniper has 2 new toys to play with. I'm going to start out with the melee. This is a worse Tribalman's Shiv. And the Tribalman's Shiv is already a bad weapon. Is the knockback useful? Maybe. But why would you go into melee range to do less damage to then send people out of your melee range? It's just really counterintuitive. And if you like the Sniper's new primary, I have something to tell you. But you don't need to be scoped in to shoot people with the sniper rifle in TF2. You can no-scope people, and it does 50 damage. So just run around and no-scope people, it's the same thing. Except you can also zoom in and headshot people for 150. And finally the Spy. So they gave him the Trank gun, which makes people colorblind when you shoot them. Makes it so they move slower and also do less damage. And for the Spy, this deals less damage. So this sucks to play against because no one likes to be colorblind and no one likes to do less damage and to move slower. Who thought this was a good idea? It also just sucks for the Spy because you do less damage with your gun. And his new watch, which makes him so he's faster when invisible, but it has less cloak. Notice how it didn't say cloak drain, so it also recharges quicker, so it essentially doesn't have a downside in that aspect because you can travel a greater distance because you move quicker. So you don't actually, you don't lose out on a distance when invisible like the cloak and dagger does with base TF2. And its other downside of, lacking resistances, 1, doesn't matter because you go fast, and 2, the damage vulnerability doesn't really impact you because it doesn't cross any thresholds. And if you really want to go fast as Spy, you can use the Dead Ringer or the Big Earner. And those are all of the new weapons. So everything which they added is just a worse designed and worse in function version of something you can already do in base TF2. So why would you bother playing this mod? The new unique game modes are not exciting and are just frustrating, and all of the new weapons already have very, very similar alternatives in base TF2. And then when you add on the fact that there's less players, and less weapons, and less loadouts, also no hats, no loadout system, so you can't quickly change different combinations of weapons. This isn't a TF2 mod where it's TF2 but with reworked content. This is just TF2 but with less content. Just don't understand why anybody would want to play this over the base game. And once the novelty of the new content wears off on everyone, the players will dwindle. Because there is nothing truly unique about this mod, and because it removes so much more content which it adds, people will just go back to the base game. After playing this mod for an extended period of time, the only thing it has made me want to do is to play regular TF2 more.